Okay, we're going to go through next lifter today. We're going to start by going through the setup process, and we're going to do this as if we had just received this particular spreadsheet and we're getting to start a new meet. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, after opening one of our prior spreadsheets, we're going to save it. We're going to call it test meet February 20th, 2020. Now, when we go to set up the meet, we want to change the name of the meet and put whatever meet your name you have. This is called the test meet. And what's the date? Well, the date of this meet is the next thing we want to change, and we're going to do it 2021. And then what type of a meet? Well, we'll leave it as powerlifting, but you notice we get some options here in the drop downs where we can have a bench press only, a powerlifting, a squat only, or a push pull. You can combine people in a powerlifting meet. You can have both full lifting as well as push pull as well as bench only. So we have some options as to how we do it. You'll also notice as we scroll down through the screen that we've got the platform weight set. This is what you're going to be using in the meet. So be sure to include whatever the individual weights are that are there. And you want to set this up before you actually generate the spreadsheet, of course, or the lifting sheet, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. The other thing that's very important to get right is the weight of the bar and collars. This will help define what's going to be seen on the screen in terms of how we do the actual loading of the bars for the lifters. So in this situation, we have both a large 8-foot 25 kilo squat bar with 5 kilos in collars, and then we have the same for the bench press. So you can use and set up for larger or smaller bars. You can go as low as 25 kilos for the deadlift in situation, and we do also allow for smaller deadlift loads if you want to. And then also whether or not you want to have results in pounds or kilograms. We're going to come back to the reset and the best lifter coefficient in a minute. I want to just review that you also have body weight classes, which are defined for you as part of the sheet that you get. And then we have the different divisions. The divisions are also defined for you. And in the divisions, there's also a scoring function. And if we just take a quick look at that, by clicking, we'll again get the drop-down menu that occurs. And you can determine place in terms of scoring based on division, weight class, and total, which is a number 1 choice. Or you can see we have a bunch at number 2, and that takes into account the division and the total times the coefficient. So you can have this based on coefficients, or you can have it just based on the total. Typically, we would run most meets with a 2 or a 3. 3 includes age. So in the age coefficient, what we're doing at that situation is we're accounting for a young person in the teens. They get a factor applied in addition to the regular coefficient, and anybody that's over the age of 40. And those coefficients are applied going through the person age by year. So it's very important to figure out how you're going to score the meet, and then based on that, applying whether it's a 2 or a 1, so that you get the correct scoring to occur. If we scroll down now, you'll notice that we've got two buttons. The best lifter coefficient, we always use Glossenbrenner. We don't use anything else. So it should be Glossenbrenner only. You don't even need to change that. We then have this reset function. So the reset is what you're going to do to take the old program and old data from your last meet, and you're going to reset it so that you do it for this meet. So in terms of a reset, I'm going to press that button, And it's going to ask me about the various different pages or worksheets across the bottom. There's weigh-in, lifting, bar load, upcoming flights, 3 lift squat. You can see that across the bottom of your spreadsheet. We're going to delete the weigh-in page because we don't want to have that. We don't need any results because we're going to have new results. And we're going to have a new lifting page. What we don't want to do is clear the data on this page because we have all of the different classifications are all provided for you, and they map into the WPC and the AWPC classifications so that they're very standard. We don't want to clear the data on this page. So we say cancel on that. What that now means is if we go and look at the weigh-in page, we now have the ability to go ahead and to put some information in on the weigh-in page. It's very important when you're looking at the weigh-in page that you do not press the button that says click here to copy weigh-in data to lifting sheet until after all of the individual lifters have been entered, their weights have been entered, and their openers have been entered. So in this situation, you want to make sure that is completely done before you go ahead and copy it across to the lifting sheet. The reasons for that are that the package is a little bit, or the software application, it's a little bit sensitive to how this particular page is used. A cardinal rule is you never copy and paste data into this page. If you do, copy it from another package and copy it in rather than typing it in, you will find that you will have problems and the system will not set up correctly. So it's very important that this be a manually entered page. You'll also notice that we have a team capability built into the package so that you can record teams as well, and then you can set up scoring in the setup page for the individual teams and what the team points are for placements. So placements of 1 through whatever, and then points that are awarded so that you can score for teams if you choose. So let's go ahead and enter some people in. We're going to enter just one flight today with 3 people. So we select our flight from the drop down, and we're going to put in first lifter and their age. And then their division. So what division are they entering in? So in this case, I'll scroll down and we're going to say that going to be a male, and we're going to be a raw, and we're going to be, I'm a male 5, raw, AWPC. My body weight in kilograms is 89.9. We don't use lot numbers typically, but you can put lot numbers in. And I'm going to open my squat at 150 kilos. I'm going to have a rack height on my squat of J. My rack height on my bench press is going to be 4. I'm going to open my bench press with 150 kilos. And I'm going to open my deadlift with 200 kilos. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to enter my events. So that, so I enter my powerlifting events. And I'm also going to be entering in the bench only. So this is something else I'm going to do. I'm going to have the bench only. But I'm going to, when you're entering someone who's also doing a single lift as well as a full power, which is quite often the case, you're going to put an identifier beyond their name to identify them as being unique. You can't have the same name with occupying two entries into a meet. So you have to identify the bench only individual who's also doing full power as having a BP associated with it. And I made a wrong choice there, so I need to go back and correct that. And this one, I would again go with my men raw 5. WPC 89.9 for 150. And I'm going to be doing the bench press only, which is BP. Okay, and then let's put another person in here. Again in flight A, and we're going to say that this is a lady lifting. So we're going to say that it's Hilda. Hilda's 44. She's going to be in the female raw masters 1. And we'll say that Hilda's lifting in WPC, and Hilda's going to be in weight, we'll say is 67 kilos. Hilda's going to use F as her rack height. Squat will be 125. Height of 4. First bench will be 90 kilos, and the deadlift will be 175 kilos. And Hilda's lifting in powerlifting. Okay. So that's how you do the entries, and you enter these throughout the course of the day. As people are doing their weigh-ins, you should have someone trying to keep up with that so that you can get this done. We like to do the weigh-ins the day before so that this can all be completed prior to actually showing up at the event. So now we're going to copy the weigh-in data to the lifting sheet. So we click that, and then the lifting sheet will have everything organized for us. So now we've built out our lifting sheet, and we do one quick check as the person doing the build of the data, and you want to check that the Glossenbrenner factor actually comes across. This is an indicator that you have a problem with the spreadsheet, the way you've entered data. If the numbers don't populate under the word Glossenbrenner, which is where the little cross is on this screen right now, if that's not populated, then you have a problem. You'll notice that the system has understood that Bruce BP doesn't have anything in the squat, so it's not set anything up for squats. You can use this as a screen to present information. You can also use the bar load screen as well, and you can set up the system so that you can throw this screen on a separate this view on a separate screen, so that only the lifters, the spotters and loaders can actually go ahead and use this screen as a vehicle for seeing what's going on in terms of loadings that need to be done. The other thing that you can do is you can have different flights also being presented up and shown on a different screen. So you can have the flight list for your meet can be shown in that manner. We're going to go back to the lifting screen now, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start recording some lifts. So Hilda's going first. She's doing a squat of 125, and let's say that she got that one and it was a good lift. All right, so I clicked on good and it came down and it was fine. And then Bruce went ahead and I'm going to say no lift, but then I'm going to realize that in fact I made a mistake, and this happens quite often, and that I should have said it was a good lift. So how do I fix that? I've now moved on to Bruce bench press, but I need to fix Bruce's numbers. So what I do is I go back to where it says Bruce, the name of the lifter, and I click on the little drop down button, and you'll notice I've got the list of the lifters now who are active, and I'll go ahead and I'll say, okay, it's Bruce that we need to go back and change, and what I need to do is I need to make Bruce's a good lift. So I just go back and change it that way, and then I'm set to go. So the next thing we need to do is we need to change or record what the next attempts are. And Hilda is going to go for 130 on her next attempt, and Bruce is going to go for 160. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, after we've completed the first set of squats, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the second set of squats. So what we're going to do is we're going to select squat 2 by going to the exercise or the competition attempt bucket or cell, and we'll just select 2, and that then reformats everything, shows us how we need to be loading things up, etc. So we'll say that Hilda had a good lift, and then she's going to do 135 on her next squat. And Bruce is all set up already, and he's going to get a good lift this time. And what we're then going to do is we're going to make Bruce go to 170 kilos. Okay, and then in order to do squat number 3 again, I've gone through all the lifts. Then what I do is I come over and I click on squat 2 and I make it go to squat 3. Now again, it's going to restructure, rebuild the screen, and we're going to go ahead and say that both Bruce and Hilda missed their third squats. Okay. So now we've gone ahead and completed our squats. And if we had another flight, then what we would do is we would click on the flights. I'm going to save first. You should always save every once in a while. I'm going to click on the flight. And if I had another flight of squatters to go, I would simply change that by clicking on the drop down and going from flight A to one of the other flights that was up next. So that's how you would change the flight if you were still going to squat. We just have one flight in this particular example, so we're going to now go ahead and go to bench. And to go to bench, I go to the exercise cell, and I say, okay, I want to do bench 1. And bench 1, we've now got three records, but only really 2 lifts, because Bruce and Bruce BP are the same person. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to say that Hilda's lift was good, Bruce's lift was good, and because Bruce and Bruce BP are the same person, that lift was good as well. And Hilda's next lift is going to be 100 kilos. Bruce is going to do 165. And I would mark that for both Bruce and Bruce BP to have that go through. All right, so now we're into bench 2. So again, my selection goes to bench 2. And then what I'm at in this position is I go through and I again say, is it a good lift? Yep. And we're going to say that Bruce didn't make his lifts. And Hilda's going to go with 102.5 on her next attempt. And Bruce is going to retry his 165. We're going to say that Hilda's attempt was good. But first, we're going to have to go and change ourselves to bench 3. And that's going to then set everything up. And we're going to say that Hilda's first attempt was good. And Bruce got his as well. And Hilda was within the appropriate range for a record, so she has asked for a 4th bench. So we're going to go to bench 4. And notice how the screen has now opened up for bench 4, and we'll put in Hilda's lift, which is going to be 105 kilos, is her record attempt. And so now we've got the appropriate bench set up, and we're going to say that Hilda unfortunately didn't make it for this lift, so she gets a no lift on the 105. Okay, so now we have subtotals that have been calculated, and we'll move on to the deadlift. So we're just going to quickly go through the deadlifts. Okay, and we're going to say that Hilda got hers, Bruce got his. Hilda's going to do 180 kilos next. Bruce got his. And then Bruce is going to do 210 kilos. Oh, 210 kilos. Okay, and then we're going to, for deadlift 2, do our deadlift attempts. And again, the system will reorganize everything and show us what we need to see. And we're going to say that Hilda was good and Bruce was good. And then for deadlift 3, Hilda's going to try 182.5 and Bruce is going to try 227.5. Okay, we'll go to deadlift 3. And we're going to say that Hilda missed hers and Bruce missed his. All right, so now you'll notice that we've got the calculations have been done so that we've got now our powerlifting totals and we've got our coefficient scores and age and coefficient scores have all calculated correctly. In terms of, because it's a full power meet, right, we're going to see that as we're looking at this, we've used a placing a point awarding code of 2, which is also noted. You'll see that right where the cross is on the screen. So that means that we're just using the coefficient rated score as how we're going to determine placing. So it's coefficient within the weight class, and that's how that's done. So once we've completed this part of the meet, it's now time to generate our results. So there's two buttons that are important here. We have a results button and we have a print sheet button. So the results button is the first one that you want to press. So you press the results button, and then the system's going to go ahead and fill out the results from the meet, and it's going to place them into the appropriate tab across the bottom of the screen. So for example, we can hit 3 lift and now we can see what our meet results were. So we've got now our different, our two people doing full power, what the powerlifting totals were, what the coefficient scores were, and what the age and coefficient scores were. We still calculate the age and coefficient, but it's not necessarily used to rank people based on whatever your points code is. So in terms of that, that's the 3 lift. And then for the individuals, you can see that we had the bench only, and there was only just the one person in the division they're in, the body weight, kilograms and the weight classes, the bench that was done, and you can scroll it out a bit more. We missed on the 165, but got it on the 3rd. The coefficient score, and then the age and coefficient score. Bruce gets a very big bump because of his age, and that gives us then the placements. Okay, and any team points that were awarded get awarded. And if we had something in deadlift, we could see that, and push-pull as well would be calculated and shown in exactly the same way. So we're now going to go back to the lifting page, and we're going to now do the print sheet. So by hitting the print sheet, we're now going to generate something that we can print off, and this can then be used as something that can be posted up on the web page, etc. So this is again a look at how Next Lifter works, and let's close that print preview. And that hopefully gives you an idea of what to do and what not to do when setting up for a competition. A couple of, again, key major points to stress. A, don't build your lifting page from your weigh-in page, i.e., do not press this button here. Do not press that button until you have everybody and reconciled everybody in the system. Always frequently save the data throughout the course of the day is point number 2. Point number 3, never copy and paste data into this spreadsheet. Just use the spreadsheet as it is set up. And that's Next Lifter and how you use it.